GWFM gets overwhelming opportunity to have Naozer Dalal, Deputy CEO of Conneqt Business Solutions. Naozer is an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad with 32 years of experience, post the qualification of experience across the banking and BPM industries. Naozer currently the Deputy CEO of Conneqt Business Solutions Limited, formerly known as Tata Business Support Services Limited. This is a subsidiary of Quest Corporation. In his role, Naozer leads 40,000 strong team, applying his executive leadership strength to the service delivery function with P&L responsibility, both domestic and international, across banking, financial services, telecom, media, auto, manufacturing, government, retail, and e-commerce. Is also responsible for overseeing sales, account management for a large part of the business, the central operational excellence function, and corporate support functions of IT, facility management, corporate quality, and transition, besides responsibility for building the HR shared services and finance and accounting practices. In the past, Naozer has held a number of senior positions across finance, risk management, operations, administration, general management, project management, and the change management with Standard Chartered Bank and Prudential Processes Management Services India Private Limited. It's called PPMS, a captive process outsourcing outfit of Prudential UK, a leading financial services. His immediate previous role being Chief Executive Officer, eNext Financials Limited, a Tata Enterprise organization. Naozer is well known in the wider industry for his passion, leadership, and mentoring. Of course, strategic thinking, connecting with staff productivity, process orientation, which translates into significant value for customers, both internal and external. With this, it gives us great pride and privilege to have Naozer Dalal, Deputy CEO of Conneqt Business Solutions. Great to have you with us, Naozer.
No, thank you, Dr. Shiva. Absolutely my pleasure and privilege.
As we start your day, we're curious to know that all the WFM professionals and HR and also operations colleagues around the world, they want to know that, how do you start your day? And you've been growing as a leader and emerging leader. So a lot of things to learn from you. How do you start your day, and what is really important to you in the day that you start?
No, so one of the principles which I generally use is that before I go to bed the previous evening, I ensure that my mailbox is completely clear. I have given my inputs wherever required. I have asked the right questions of people. Yeah, so I generally sort of retire only once I have put in a more than a full days of work and ensure that whatever needs attention has attended to. Yeah, so I go by the principle that any mail which comes to me, whether it's from an external customer, from my manager, or from my team members, or anybody in the organization for that matter, gets attended to very, very promptly. Yeah, so my general turnaround time for any kind of mail is end of that day. Because during the day, of course, I do sort of try to attend if I have a couple of minutes between meetings. But otherwise, my diary is sort of pretty full, right from reasonably early to mid morning to late night. Yeah, so that is something which I've been sort of abiding to quite well, particularly during the time, since the time we've had emails come in, which was what about maybe 20 years ago. And so I start sort of pretty fresh, knowing exactly what is happening the next day, what are the key priorities for the next day, what are the customer interactions the next day. I've ensured that I'm prepared with my team for that customer interaction. I mean, so I'm prepared for internal meetings. So I mean, I sort of ensure that wherever I am, whichever meeting I am, whether as a leader, whether as a as a vendor partner, I mean, me and my team are completely prepared in that sense. Yeah, and then that could be whether, as I said, whether it could be a customer, whether it could be internal, whether it could be a external forum. Yeah, so that's a principle I generally have been sort of I mean, abiding by as far as my own personal discipline and my own personal calendar is concerned. Other than that, of course, if I don't have a very early start, I would like to sort of do a little bit of activity. So typically, I sort of try to get in at least about a half an hour to a 45-minute walk in the mornings, before getting along with my day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm personally still following a bit of a hybrid model. So
Wow.
maybe 3 days of the week I may be out meeting customers, attending office,
Amazing.
at I mean, because traveling just saves time, which is what we all realized, during the pandemic,
Absolutely.
and it sort of aids the efficiency. So it's a good mix because it helps me be in touch with my customers. It helps me be in touch with the ground level staff in my office, with my team members, with my direct reports. And, on the 1 or 2 days which I work from home, it also enhances my productive window because it cuts my driving time and travel time. So I think, that's working fairly well for me in that sense, in terms of the hybrid model.
There has been a great lesson as far as pandemic is concerned. Like we really learned how to be efficient, how to be very productive, right? And a lot of organizations have been following. Good to know that like your organization is following and you are following it very meticulously.
No, let me clarify. The organization is now, I mean, because I mean, ultimately, as you know, we are, one of India's largest domestic business process management providers. So, I mean, during the pandemic, of course, we, turned around our support to our customers very, very rapidly. Yeah.
Amazing.
So we've had maybe about 10,000 people working from home in a matter of 3 or 4 days. So that's the kind of scale of exercise which we took at that time, including transporting desktops to individuals' homes, ensuring that those are loaded with the right amount of software and the data loss prevention tools. So we did all of that. Yeah. So as far as the staff is concerned, it's either a complete 100% work from home or a 100% work from office model. Though of course the people working from home are coming down, because what we have also found is that I mean, I think we are pretty much, fingers crossed, at the end of the pandemic cycle. And so our clients themselves prefer that that we work from office, because they themselves are coming back to office. We of course have a few of our customers, including some of the larger ones, who have chosen to have a hybrid model. So we have one large customer, a very, very valued and vintage customer of ours, who has chosen to do a 50% work from home and 50% work from office model.
Okay.
And they've chosen to continue it for the long term, both from a marginal cost benefit analysis, marginal cost benefit, but more importantly from a BCP perspective.
Okay.
So we have adopted that. So we are very flexible. So yes, so there are a few of these kind of individuals. Then there are other set of customers who want us to do a completely work from home model, which is largely from a, again, both a BCP and a cost perspective, as far as these individual customers are concerned. And then of course there are customers who want us to work 100% from office. Yeah, particularly some of the banking customers, the banking and the financial services industry customers.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think we have seen all kinds of customers, all kinds of responses. We have learned to evolve. We have learned to adapt. We have learned, to continue to be nimble and agile, during the pandemic and even thereafter. And so it's only really the management team who has the flexibility, to do a limited hybrid kind of a model. But we have expected even the management and leadership team to definitely be in office at
Mhm.
least 2 to 3 days a week.
Amazing.
That's it.
That,
If
that way, I think you people have really done phenomenal work. Wonderful. It has, moving on, three things that we look at: talent, business, and client.
right.
What do you think is your priority?
I don't think I can really say either or, because in my mind, I think it's a bit of a virtuous circle. So, we with our past, so just by way of background, I mean, just for the wider audience, I mean, Conneqt Business Solutions in its earlier avatar was Tata Business Support Services. Yeah. And that's the name, or TBSS in short. And that's the name which possibly we are still better known in the market because the vintage of that name or the longevity of that name is more than I mean the Conneqt name, which has been in existence for about 4 years now. So
Right.
as part of the Tata Group, and of course now we are part of Quest Corp, India's leading conglomerate in terms of the shared services and business support services. We are a listed company, and founded by a visionary gentleman, Ajit Isaac,
Right.
with investments by Fairfax Holdings. So we are part of a listed entity now, and so the whole Tata heritage, the Quest's focus on agility and speed and customer delight. I mean, I think we are in a happy space in terms of how we work with customers, how we react with customers. Yeah. So in my mind, I think it's a bit of a virtuous equation because for us, business is really dependent on happy employees and happy customers. Yeah. I mean, if either of these are not there, I mean, I don't think you can have business growth. Yeah. So yeah, so the focus definitely is happy employees. So so we were fairly industry leading, at the respective points in time for
Okay.
some of our employee benefits. So whether it was the health insurance, which we introduced maybe more than a decade and a half ago, which at that time was sort of fairly industry leading for the BPO industry, to have health insurance, health, accident and life cover for
Right.
all our employees. To the fact that that we also have a mix of both financial and non-financial elements, in the entire employee value proposition,
Right.
which we provide to our employees, which has also been validated very, very recently again. So, we are being certified as a great place to work
Right.
for 3 years in a row now. So in the first year, of course, we went with we went with the vanilla certification. Last year, we came in the top 100 at rank number 92. And this year we are in the top 50, with a rank of 41. And, we have jumped actually 51 points. And also, we were recognized as the best in the professional services industry.
Mhm.
And at rank 41, if I may say it with all humbleness, we were ranked even much higher than, some of our other players, BPO players, both in the domestic and, and the international space. So that's the kind of validation we have got in terms of our efforts to keep our employees happy, through a mix of, career development, and I think just empathy and caring. I mean,
Right.
so, I mean, even during COVID, I mean, we definitely ensured that we did not cut a single rupee of our, junior staff,
Okay.
who need the money the most. I mean,
Right.
so everybody who worked and made extra efforts to work even during COVID, either by I mean taking infrastructure home or coming to office in spite of the full lockdown which we had in the first 8 to 9 weeks. Of
Okay.
course, we supported them during the lockdown, because by providing buses and and we were coming under essential services because of the support which we provide for banking and telecom industries. So we ensured that whoever put a honest days of work in spite of the circumstances surrounding them, were paid to the full. Whilst yes, a few of us senior and the leadership team,
Right.
definitely took some some pay rationalizations, which of course was in line with whatever was happening in the wider industry. So from so we really care for our employees. We empathize with our employees, yeah, to ensure that we have happy employees. Yeah, in terms of, and when you have happy employees, I mean, it reflects in the, because a bulk of our employees interact with the end customers of our customers. Yeah,
Right.
because we are in the BPO space. So ultimately, our employees, they represent our customers' brand, with their end customers. I hope what I'm, I hope I'm coming across. Yeah. So tomorrow, if I, I mean, if I call up for XYZ Bank, my employee represents the brand values and the, and the brand image of XYZ Bank. So therefore, it's absolutely critical, that my employee feels happy, feels wanted, so that, that overall quality and tenor of the interaction, at least on the softer skill side, I mean, gets through. Yeah. And of course, I mean, if the end customers are happy, then that leads to a great NPS in terms of Net Promoter Score, leads to great CSAT, and
Right.
and of course, once that happens, we believe that we keep our customers happy, because what we do is we also run our internal Net Promoter Score surveys every year,
Right.
where we ask our customers in terms of how they would rate us, in terms of various parameters. I mean, in terms of, say, operational performance, agility, management connect, and a few other factors. We also ask them to rate us on what we call a CES, Customer Effort Score.
Right.
Yeah, where which sort of is effectively a surrogate for the ease of doing business with Conneqt.
Mhm.
So just as you have ease of doing business rankings for various countries, we sort of do that. And again, very, very happy to note, that the efforts we put in have actually resulted in a significant improvement in our NPS year on year. Yeah. So, I mean, over the last 3 years, I think, the number of promoters, within our customers, have sort of maybe doubled, then, and the number of detractors have reduced. So our NPS in the last year was a high of 65. Yeah. And I think that's again a validation of the fact that, that we look after our customers and do everything it takes to make our customers happy. So in my mind, to summarize, it's not really either or. It's happy employees leading to happy customers. And
Right.
then, of course, the overall growth of the business.
Absolutely. So you said it right, and today's leadership is all about empathy. And even HBR talks about it very recently, about it, and you really uh, have that in your organization pretty much. That's really good to know. Talent first, and then business will happen, and definitely, like customer satisfaction. Absolutely. Very well highlighted, Hazard.
Right.
So, moving on, tell us how people bring value to the organization and how it should be as per your perspective.
Sure. So I think everybody brings value, in terms of, whatever role they are doing, whatever skill sets they bring in. And I personally, and as an organization, we like to drive people to their strengths. Yeah. So, I mean, as you know, there are two theories how to do it. One is, you try to correct people's weaknesses and bring them up, or the other way to look at it is, that we accept that, everybody, including you, me, have certain areas where we need to work on. But there are maybe eight other areas or nine other areas, where we do so well. Yeah. So I've always believed in, including for my own personal development, for the development of my team members, to really play to people's strengths. Yeah. And not really worry about, that one or two shortfalls. Because see, ultimately we are a team at whatever level it is, whether, myself and my direct reports, or my direct reports and their direct reports, down to the pyramid. So because organizations work as pyramids. So within pyramids, there are groups of people working together for a common business or customer outcome. Yeah. So as long as, I mean, we recognize each other's strengths, weaknesses, the value everybody brings into the equation,
Right.
and we build on it, I think in my mind, that's good enough for the organization to continue to extract value and, continue to sort of ensure that, we deliver business outcomes. Of course, that said, I mean, if there are areas which are completely below a hygiene threshold, yes, I think then, I think individuals have to be counseled, individuals have been told to work on it. But as long as, some of the weaker areas of, of an individual, are meeting minimum hygiene thresholds, then
Right.
of course, I think then it makes just sense to focus on individual strengths, and then build on them, and get people, playing together as an orchestra, and, and then deliver the outcome, in that sense.
That's a fantabulous value proposition that which you talked about.
Yeah. So I believe that each person is important in for the role he or she plays, and we must value that, we must respect that, and yeah, and go forward.
Absolutely. Great. So, thank you so much. So, let's move on. Now, please share us your organization's value system. I know that how Connect Business Solutions has been. So, in fact, I know we had discussed a lot of highlights about an organization's values, ethics, leadership, and all. Want
Right.
to know that some insights about how I mean how and like what is the value system that organization.
Yeah, so we organize on four pillars, So our value systems are, based on four pillars within the organization, and I'll just share them with you. So the first one, of course, is customer first. Yeah.
Wow.
So by that, what we mean is that we exist because of the customer. Yeah. To put it another way, we can also say customer is king, customer is always right. There are various ways to sort of put it. Yeah. But, we sincerely sort of imbibe that. We sort of live by that on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So what does it mean? It means that, that we are flexible. Yeah. We try to accommodate customers' needs, requirements. If there are some minor changes in terms of the operating model, in terms of the expectations, we sort of work with the customer to see how much we can accommodate, how much we can't. We build robust relationships across various levels. Yeah. So we are not very, very hierarchy driven in that sense. Yeah. So I'm very happy personally to, interact and, build a relationship with the CXO level person of my client, as also, maybe the person who's a vendor manager. So as you would know, in the BPO industry, there are, typically many of our customers are vendor managers who operate in our offices and work with my teams. Yeah. So I'm equally at ease, respecting, those individuals, working with those individuals, treating them as, good colleagues, as with the CXO level. And likewise, I think, would my team be. Yeah. So, yeah, so I think multi-directional, relationship with customers, as I said, flexibility, ensuring that both the customers' felt and unfelt needs are met. Yeah, I think that really sort of imbibes the value of customer first. The next one is an internal thing, which is buck stops with me. Yeah, so that's the second value which we have.
Wow.
Which really talks about ownership. It talks about responsibility. It ensuring is that people don't say that that this is not my job.
Right.
Which again, personally, as my ethos all through my career, right from when I started off to and to sort of the current date, I've always tried to do three things or four things more than what my formal job description would be. Yeah. So whether it's, putting out a hand for an extra project or, trying to get teams together to get a customer outcome, even though it may not be, part of my then formal KRAs, whatever roles I may have done in the past. Yeah. So that is again something which we want people to do. Of course, we don't want chaos. So at the junior level, of course, if everybody starts putting up their hand to do what everybody else does, I mean, there will be chaos. So yes, I mean, we encourage our people, to follow a job description. We have robust key performance indicators for each role, which people are aware of at the beginning of the financial year, beginning of the appraisal year, and we follow that. But we do want to reward, we do want to, I mean, take care of people who go that extra mile. Yeah, who sort of, I mean, do that extra thing for the customer or for an internal customer. Yeah, and overall, plus broadly take that onus of, that ownership. So, so the buck stops with me really is about ownership and responsibility and going the extra mile. Yeah, so that's the second value which we have. The third one is called continuous excellence. Yeah, so we believe that we have to constantly raise the bar. Yeah, we have to constantly ensure that if you are doing something well today, we do it better tomorrow, and put our best the third day. Yeah.
Right.
So how do we continue? Of course, there are formal tools and methods to do that. So we have we have a central excellence team who works with me as an independent function within the organization, who looks at processes, systems, controls across the organization with a view to continually better them. We use tools like Six Sigma, Black Belt, Kaizen and all of that, to sort of ensure that we do that. So yes, those are formal tools, but it's the mindset, which we are trying to cultivate across the organization, in terms of the mindset for continuous excellence, and outdoing one's own performance day by day, month on month, as we go along. So that's the value of continuous excellence. And the last value is teamwork wins, which again sort of goes back to what I said in terms of, about the values which people bring to the organization. Then ultimately it's a team. Yeah. So ultimately, whilst we recognize individual contribution, but we don't, we don't overemphasize it. Yeah. So, so beyond a point, I mean, yes, if you are doing an individual contributor role, then yes, I think it's important for you to sort of excel and, excel in that role of individual contributor. But if you are a team member at whatever level, then we encourage people and we encourage behaviors, which contribute to teamwork. Yeah. So that we don't want, lone superstars. Yes, we definitely, as I said, value individual brilliance, but we don't want that to be the culture of the organization where people work in silos or, where people put, me before us. We don't want to encourage that kind of a behavior. Yeah. So we want to encourage people working together in teams, and ensuring, that the team outcomes and the customer outcomes are met.
That's great.
So four values. I mean, just to summarize: teamwork wins, customer first, buck stops with me, and continuous excellence.
I've really learned a lot. I mean, this process really kind of value system which you have and your organization has is really phenomenal. And I'm sure that with these four pillars, which an organization runs with flawless growth, exponential stuff. So really touched by the values that what Business Connect has. Wonderful. So great insights, Nazar. Moving on, according to you, what kind of leadership style is required in this today's business world?
Okay, that's a good question. No, in my mind, I think we need to have a flexible leadership style. I mean, if I want to put it, summarize, and there is another saying to look at it differently in terms of different strokes for different folks. Yeah. So
Okay.
we need to figure out, and it linked to what I said about a couple of minutes back, in terms of we need to figure out what motivates our individuals, what drives individuals, people, because for someone, you know, say for someone, money could be a driver, to be very honest. For somebody else, recognition, I mean, recognizing someone before one's peers, could be a different kind of a motivation. For a third person, just excelling in what he or she does could be a motivation. So, I mean, as I said, I mean, organizations are made up of different sets of people coming together, I mean, to deliver, individual and, business and customer outcomes. Yeah. So I think it's important for me as a leader, to be flexible. Yeah. So that's one of the things which I do. The other one is which I do is really walk the talk. Yeah. So all along in my career, I've never expected my team member to do something which I would not do. Yeah, irrespective of the fact that I could be 2 levels higher than someone, 4 levels higher than someone, that's secondary. Yeah. So, but I'm a small example. If I expect that, a team member, works on a weekend, if there is something important happening, then I cannot say, that I cannot work on a weekend. So I would actually like to always set an example, 2 steps ahead of what I expect from my team members. Yeah. So if I expect my team members, to work on a Saturday, I wouldn't mind working on a Saturday and a Sunday. Yeah. Because only then I can have the moral authority, I mean, yes, I mean, positional authority may get me somewhere, but, I mean, that's the other mantra which I have leadership, that positional authority can only get you up to a point. Yeah.
True.
But if you have to go beyond that, then it's really the moral authority, the sort of the leadership authority which comes in, which I think helps, team members to rally behind you, to do what you're saying, and, get the customer outcomes. Yeah. And the other piece of leadership which I have always actually followed is empathy. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So I think it's important, So again, it's linked to the first one in terms of doing what I mean, I wouldn't want someone to do what I don't do. Also, it's the other way around, So if I don't like to be treated by my manager in a certain way, then I should not also treat, my people that way, Yeah. So therefore, I mean, I have huge respect for my team members, whether it's, the person who, helps us keep the offices clean, to, as I said, one of my direct reports, or it could be a manager also. So the way I approach people, the way I treat people, the way I respect people is identical. I mean, there is absolutely no difference in terms of how I treat people as or value people as individuals. As I said, because the person who also cleans your offices is there for a particular reason. And if I take a more spiritual look at it, yes, he or she is there, for a reason. I mean, through certain circumstances of life, of birth, of opportunities. Yeah.
Right.
So I think, I mean, everybody's doing a job, everybody's doing a great job. So, and as long as people are putting in their best, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. And the last bit, of course, is, that on the flip side of that is that if people are not putting in their best, then I think that is something which, then I have some leeway for it, but not a huge leeway for it. Yeah. So at some point in time, if you believe that, people are not wanting to put their best, people are lazy, or, somebody, does not want to sort of stretch, then it will be very difficult for that person, to at least have an equation with me in that sense. I mean, it's, so those are some of the 4 or 5 kind of tenets of leadership which I've work with, so in term, and of course, sorry, finally, most importantly, ethical leadership. Yeah. So that's the last bit which I do. And then, that's of course with my background, with my personal values, and I've worked with all professional organizations in the past. I mean, throughout my 32 years of my career. So I've never been in a situation, even when I was part of the finance function in the past, sometimes we're in the ops functions, where I've been asked to do anything incorrect by my managers. Yeah. So at least I've never faced a dilemma, that I'm being asked to do something unethical by the organization. Yeah. So therefore, I've always had a very, very ethical brand of leadership. Yeah. So 4 or 5 elements: ethics, empathy, playing on people's strengths, ensuring that I treat people the way I like to be treated, and finally, sort of, respect for everybody in the team and in the organization.
That's fantabulous, Nazar. In fact, no doubt your organization's team and the entire team who are working under you and working with you, no doubt, they are really looking up to you, kind of leadership style that you carry and kind of leadership style that, like you always value.
Thank
Wonderful, wonderful learning for
you.
me as well. I'm sure that, our members would get a lot of benefit with this conversation. Great. Let's move on. Can you tell us about your role model, someone whom you always admire as a CEO?
That's a bit of a difficult question. No, but to be honest, I don't really have a role model, to be very honest. Yeah. So I'm not trying to give a convenient answer. But what I do have is, that because see, it'll also be a little unfair if, some of the other people who may have inspired me at different points of my journey, Again, it's very positional. Again, it's very situational in my mind. Yeah. So role models change at different times of the journey you are. So in some cases, your role model could be an immediate boss. It could be, the CEO of the organization you may have been at that point in time. But I mean, these things change. But what I will say is that I've picked up a lot of stuff, so my personal, the personal ethics, my personal leadership style, definitely I've taken, bits and pieces from various people who have been inspired by in the past, and I mean, again, if I mean, some of the key takeaways which have been inspired is professionalism. Yeah. So hugely professional, I mean, I've seen leaders who are hugely professional, in terms of, giving their last sweat and toil in terms of ensuring that they give their best to the organization, which I imbibe. Employee welfare is, I mean, I've seen some leaders who have employee welfare as a very, very close to their heart, and, in that sense. So that's another one. Uh, Meritocracy, so some of my leaders who have sort of, I mean, are fully focused on meritocracy, so this whole business about, I mean, favoritism or politics, I've not seen in, I mean, yes, of course, in all organizations, there is some bit of that, and that's possibly the unsaid truth. But I mean, I personally have tried to keep away from being as apolitical as possible, and as professional in my dealings as far as possible. Keeping customer first, again, I mean, that's a value which many of our customers have, and in fact, for example, I know one of the CEOs of, one of our leading customers, which I talked about earlier also. I know that gentleman actually on LinkedIn,
Okay,
replies to every customer complaint which comes.
I see.
I mean, now that's phenomenal in that sense. I mean, now, I mean, if, and that really imbibes, the whole customer first culture, which we as an organization also want to drive, So I'm saying, so that definitely is inspiring. So, I mean, yes, I've picked up, I mean, I've been molded, by a lot of influences. And yes, on the lighter note, I've also picked up some of the phrases which I use, I mean, so from my bosses, of course. So, in terms of how they used to speak or, I mean, so some buzzwords. So that's on the lighter side, which sort of you learn and imbibe from your managers, from your bosses as you go along. But yes, so I think no single inspirational CEO, but picked up good things from different people I've met along my journey.
That's really a great thing. And the leadership that you looked at from many of the CEOs or many of the leaders has been a great thought. That's great sharing, Nausar.
No problem. Thank you.
Moving on, what are your organization's priorities for 2022? We're going to go 2 more quarters and then 2023 next year.
Yes. So we have redefined our purpose, doctor. To look at three broad areas. Yeah. in terms of how do we enhance and grow revenues of our customers.
Okay.
How do we enable efficiencies, and how do we enhance experiences? Yeah. So whatever we do, we will continue to sort of focus on these three pillars of our organization, which we have focused on. So when I say grow revenues, I'm sure you know. So we are India's largest professionally run collections company in the country. Yeah, so we have got almost 10,000 people as feet on street in the country, and collecting for retail delinquencies. Yeah. So, so when a retail loan goes bad, we have our people knocking doors, as also on, calling on the phone to ensure that we collect. Now, for example, those go directly to our, banking customers' bottom lines, either in terms of, prevention of provisioning or write back of provisions, for some of the, the later bucket delinquencies. Another way we help our customers grow revenue is that we have seen increasing number of our customers, moving from service to sales. Yeah. So on telecalling, we do a lot of telesales, whether it's in the banking and financial services space, whether it's in the reality space, whether it's in some of the retail areas. So that's another area which directly has a contribution to the, to the bottom line of the company, sorry, to the top line of the company, and then in turn the bottom line. Yeah. So we are moving away from being a cost center, because see, traditionally in the past, running a call center or running, collection operations would be looked at as a cost center.
Right.
We are working with our customers to move away from, being a cost center, to being a profit center or a revenue center. Yeah. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to see how we can add value to customers. We will continue to, as I said, see how we can, improve their bottom lines through collections or sales or anything else which we do. Yeah. So I think that's one key priority which will continue now and into 2023. The other one which we are looking at is, as I mentioned, how do we enhance experiences? Yeah.
Okay.
And when I say experiences, I mean the end customer experience. Yeah. So I'm talking of the CX part of it. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we interact directly with the end customers of our customers. Yeah. So whether it's an inbound call coming into our call center, or, we calling out to resolve, some complaints or, some challenges. So we have significant touch points. So in fact, effectively on a year, we have almost 6 million touch points in terms of, our customer interactions. Yeah. So what we have done this year also is we have invested in a separate CX practice. Yeah. CX and a digital transformation practice this year, where we will work with our existing customers, to redefine their CX priorities, to see how do we can, input digital interventions into our, into our current offerings, with a view to, reduce their cost to serve, with a view to enhance their customer experience. We are also working with certain tools to see how we can, improve the net promoter scores or the CSATs of our end customers.
Okay.
So we have made those investments, in both our customer service CX capabilities and our digital IT services capabilities, because we understand our customers' business. Yeah. We understand our customers' operations. So it's a good time for us to actually sort of, go down these routes to say that, how we can do a lot of digital around it, So, so we believe that we are now in a pretty unique space where a leading domestic BPO, also having IT services as an extended, suite of offerings, so whether it's DevOps, whether it's, app development and cloud, whether it's user testing, whether it's cybersecurity management, whether it's robotic process automation, we have a whole gamut of services now, which we want to sort of, work with our customers, to enhance their end customer experiences. So that's the second priority and pillar which will continue. And the last one, of course, is enabling efficiencies. Yeah. So, we have our back office and shared services businesses, so whether it's credit operations or whether it's finance and accounting operations, whether it's HR shared services, where we do the entire hire to retire life cycle of an employee. So there, of course, the endeavor is to ensure that, we do whatever we do more efficiently than what, the principal themselves could have done. Yeah. So we run on the concept of center of excellences. We run on the concept of sharing best practices across our customers. We run on the concept that year on year, how do we ensure, per FT productivity of the people who work with us? so that, we can pass back some of that efficiencies and benefits to our customers in terms of, possibly a lower inflation asked year on year. So those are the things we try to do to sort of, enable efficiency. So really three pillars, growing revenues, enhancing experiences, and, enabling efficiencies is what we will continue to focus on in 2022 and 23.
Amazing. I mean, these are all the high priorities, and I'm sure that other organizations should learn from your priorities. This will be a great examples, kind of priorities that people have set, and your organization is phenomenal. And these three pillars will definitely give great learning for people. And I mean, to worldwide, whoever is going to watch our
Sure.
conversation is
No,
really
absolutely. We believe that these three pillars and the underlying four value systems which we are imbibing, I think should stand us in good stead, for the foreseeable future.
that's it's very insightful.
I,
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your priorities for 2022-23. Let's move on now. Last question. Any tips or suggestions to the industry professionals and leaders?
you mean in the WFM side or wider?
Wider. And we probably could talk about WFM and also the
Sure,
corporations, and then, to
sure.
the set of the professional.
No, definitely from the WFM perspective, I think, again, I think it's a good tightrope balance, which my WFM head and, team also need to continue to walk. Yeah. So we particularly being in the domestic industry, there is, huge pressure on margins.
True.
And therefore, WFM is a very, very important component in terms of how do we manage our staffing, how do we manage the number of people we need to have on ground, how do we ensure optimum staffing, at the time when the calls are going to land, because many of our customers also have very, very different call arrival patterns. Yeah.
True.
So typically, for example, let's take a food tech company. Food tech company would have call arrivals patterns more around lunch and dinner peaks, which are there, there will be lull periods. Or, for example, a diagnostic customer, the diagnostic customer would have a lot of calls in the morning. If the person, going, phlebotomist going to collect the blood is delayed, or, in the evening, when if the reports are not reaching individuals, you would get a call. So how do we ensure, that, these peaks and troughs of the call arrival pattern are handled? Whether it's, and therefore we need some innovation. So whether it's in terms of split shifts or whether it's in terms of optimum use of overtime, I mean, those are some of the things, I mean, I constantly work with my WFM team and my WFM head to sort of, support the business to, because ultimately, I mean, costs are very important, and therefore need to be very, very finely managed. The flip side of this also is, that within this, and there comes the people angle, how do we give flexibility to our people, to feel that, that yes, I mean, we run a 40,000 strong headcount organization. So therefore we do need governance, we do need, to run things a certain way.
Right.
But how do we give that flexibility to someone, through our systems, through our WFM applications, to request a roster change or request a sudden leave, if somebody is unwell or, has a personal exigency. So we also want to keep, take care of our people to the best extent we can, while keeping in mind, that the unplanned shrinkage or the planned shrinkage, remains within acceptable limits. So therefore, I think the WFM team has a very, very important role to play in any industry, whether it's domestic BPO, international BPO, to balance. And the third bit, of course, is, as I talked of cost, I talked of employee, and the most important bit, of course, why we need where the WFM comes in is the whole optimum staffing, so to ensure that there is no call abandonment, for any of our customers, so our customers have us as a call center partner to ensure that, their customers have access at any time of the day, I mean, 24/7, and within the service levels and answer levels expected. So therefore, it is very, very important, that we get the optimum staffing to take care of customer needs, to take care of our internal costs, and of course, to keep our workforce happy. Yeah. So that is what I would say, for the WFM professionals. And of course, for the wider professionals, I think, yes, I think COVID has changed a lot in terms of, how we as leaders function and respond. So I think it's again highlighted the need for agility, the need for the ability to sort of replan, the ability to be nimble, to make changes in operating models, in technology models, the ability to, work closely with customers, to ensure that, that customer outcomes are met. So all that is, I mean, again, got highlighted, more and more by COVID. And I think the industry in India globally has responded very, very well to that. I think different models of employment have come out of that,
True.
which is the gig model, the work from anywhere models. So some of that have come about. How do we adapt to that? How do we work with that? So yes, I think we have seen some of the these are some of the positive sides of the pandemic in terms of getting the business world to look at and adapt to some of the things. But of course, I mean, some of the unfortunate part continues to remain in terms of some of the loss of lives and loved ones which we saw
Right.
during the COVID, and nothing can change that unfortunate aspect.
True.
But yes, I think the industry, the BPO industry, has emerged stronger. You know, there are other pockets of industry which have bounced back. And I think we are seeing industrial activity, economic activity, tax collections pretty much close to COVID. In fact, in some of the items, in fact, it's outstripped the COVID pre-COVID indicators and numbers. So I think yes, we are gently getting there, but we are firmly getting there. And yes, I think as leaders, we just need to have the flexibility to continue to evolve and continue to deliver to customer expectations.
That's great insight, Azhar. In fact, there's been a great tips and advice for the WFM phenomenally, and also like other professions. Last questions I have, which is out of syllabus. The industry is now like looking at like we grown up in last 2 quarters, and now there could be a recession, or there could be little fear in the industry professionals' mind, and also like a lot of time. Could you share some views on this aspects?
Sorry, can I understand again?
Yeah, the industry has been now, everyone talking about US, and the uh, recession might, hit.
Right, 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 right.
If you could share some views on that, so that this will be a great learning for rest of the people around the world.
So as I said, I mean, definitely within India, there are some industries which are, definitely and firmly bouncing back. So I was reading yesterday that even commercial real estate, there are some transactions, or, the activity of commercial real estate or residential homes being sold have seen their peaks in the month of July.
Right.
E-commerce was one of the areas which bounced back pretty quickly after the COVID. Banking and financial services, the kind of the lending and the loans being disbursed are again pretty much close to the pre-COVID levels, and in fact, in some cases, are outside the pre-COVID levels. So yes, I think there are some, some indicators, that. So if I look at it, yes, I'm saying the rupee did see some, has seen some pressure over the recent past, but which is always good for, the industry I'm in. Of course, I mean, as I said, my business is largely domestic, so I don't benefit hugely from that. But, some of my international counterpart BPOs, definitely benefit from from a lower rupee in that sense.
Mhm.
And, so that's the good part. Yes, of course, some of the import intensive industries, I mean, do need to worry about the rupee. But that said, I don't see a huge challenge overall. I mean, I think some of the larger IT firms have, reported, some good numbers. They have reported, I mean, an increase again in the large deals in terms of, what they were at pre-COVID levels.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, I mean, I have a view of a, measured optimism. And yes, and India is a large market in that sense, So I think I mean, we as an organization have seen very good growth last year, and we hope to see again very good growth this year also. So
Absolutely.
I would say that we continue to be cautiously optimistic, and as I said in my earlier response, continue to be agile, continue to ensure that we have the foresight, the leadership to look at trends as they emerge and go forward.
Amazing perspective. Thank you so much, Hazar, for taking time out to share your insights, thoughts, and experiences. I'm sure that our WFM and operations and HR and all other professionals would get a phenomenal benefit from your insights and thoughts. Thank you so much for taking your time out besides your busy schedule. This has been a phenomenal help and support extended by you. besides your busy schedule. Thank you
No,
so
no,
much for
absolutely, absolutely my pleasure, Doctor. And look forward to seeing you sometime in person in the near future.
absolutely. Thank you.